Hello everyone and welcome to the top 16 from the Illinois State Championship. We've had over 130 masters in a two-day event, and we have a matchup between two true superstars of the game. Two-time Worlds finalist Ross Cawthon, we all know who he is, and we all know the other guy too. The one and only J-Wittz. People know him most for being a YouTube sensation, but this guy is a great player as well. I'm very excited to watch this matchup here. Ross recently moved to the Chicago area, so we get to see him more at tournaments. Josh took a bit of a hiatus from the game, but he is back here for the state championships, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here. We have a Garbodor deck from Ross against a Darkrai deck from Josh, and let's cut over to the game. All right, looks like we're already underway. We have Josh starting with a Mewtwo and a double colorless, so clearly it is not just Darkrai here. He has some friends in this game as well. Probably going to see Mewtwo, and since he's playing double colorless, probably Buffalon as well. Seems to be a pretty common addition. Maybe we'll see Tornadus EX. We see a Keldeo as he's looking through his deck. He's playing a Skylot on this first turn. We are going up against a Landorus from Ross, so that X-Ball is going to do 40 damage to start off the game. I'm not sure if this is what Ross expected. You know, you really hear about what your opponent is playing. You know, just throughout the course of the tournament, you're going to see pretty much what everyone is playing by this point. And you probably heard, okay, J-Wittz there, he's playing a Darkrai deck. And then you see him flip over a Mewtwo and a double colorless. That might be a little alarming. Be like, oh, okay, that's not actually what I expected. This could be a little different. We do see heads on the laser, but Ross is going to have to adapt here, and we'll see what he does. So looks like Josh is going to X-Ball for 50 with the laser. So Ross does wake up. This is kind of a little risky, just kind of going out there like that. You know, Ross is playing a Garbodor deck, which plays... They pretty much all play Mewtwo if they're playing Landorus. You play Mewtwo and double colorless, and probably a couple lasers at the very least. So, I mean, we could just see a turn one Ross. You know, he would need to have a lot of cards. He would need to have a Mewtwo, a Switch, a double colorless, and then a laser or a plus power. But if he has all those, he could turn one Josh here, and we could have a quick start to the series. And that would be a horrible start to Josh's morning. You know, starting down 0-1 on the first turn, that would be pretty brutal. And I think I saw a Pokemon in his hand, but he didn't want to get that hit by Landorus' Hammerhead, so he didn't put it down. I mean, what are the odds of Ross having a knockout on turn one on his Mewtwo? I mean, it is kind of a risk, you know, doing that. But it's probably better not to bench the Pokemon here. I mean, most of the time you are going to survive this turn. Now, we'll see what Ross does, though. He's thinking really hard about it. There is the Mewtwo. There's the double colorless. Uh-oh. And we'll see what he does. He's putting down another Landorus as well. Looks like he is all in, folks. He's going for it. If this fails, he's going to be in a horrible position. He can just lose to Josh's catcher plus energy, but if he gets it, he wins the game. And there's a Bianca, I believe it's 4 cards. There's a laser, and that is a heads on the laser, and there's a computer search. If there is a switch in Ross's deck, that is the end of the game. And wow, what a start to the series that would be between these two juggernauts of the game. Hey, look, it's a Mewtwo war. And just like that, one turn, J-Wittz falls behind 1 game to Ross. I don't know what to say about that, but wow, what a start to the morning, and what a start to this top 16 match. And if you are Josh there, you got to be feeling like, what just happened? Really? I lost a game on the first turn already? Well, at least it's a best 2 out of 3 series, and we got 2 games to go. So Josh is not out of this yet. He does have an opportunity to come back in this series. Both of these guys are experienced players. They've been playing for a while. They've been in top cuts several times. So they both know. Okay, if you're Josh, you're thinking, man, that, to put it bluntly, that sucked. I got turn one by a Mewtwo, a laser, a switch, a double colorless. He had all that in his opening hand, really. But okay, that's part of the game. I lost. There's still a chance for me to win. I just need to win this game, and then I need to win the next game. You've won 2 games in a row plenty of times before. You can do it now. Just don't get rattled. That's the main thing. Just keep calm. It's only 1 game, and stick with it. You'll be okay. Just play your best. The cards will come as they may. Now, if you're Ross, you're probably thinking, all right, good. That was an easy first win. I only have to win 1 more, and then I advance to the next round. But it's only 1 win. I don't know anything about Josh's deck other than he has a Mewtwo, a Laser, and a double colorless. And anything could happen here, so I'm not going to get complacent. I know I have to still earn 1 more win. This series is not over yet. I'm sure Ross has been in many series before where he was up a game and then lost the overall series. So definitely don't rest on your laurels here. You got to win another game here. This is not over yet. It's best 2 out of 3, 75 minutes, plenty of time. We'll see what happens here as both players shuffle up and get ready to go for the second game. Now, just something I want to comment on. If you look around on the table, we see Ross always has these same little tokens with him all the time. The first one is the Pidgeotto there, the little Pidgeotto action figure. His screen name is Pidgeotto Trainer. I believe that's his favorite Pokemon as well. Kind of a neat little quirk. I like seeing these things that give the players character sometimes. The Pidgeotto's there, the old Blastoise deck box from, like 15 years ago already. Makes me feel pretty old. He also has a die there that says the truth is out there. So, he's on Team X-Files. He's also wearing that shirt. That must be the oldest shirt he owns. I swear, I've seen him wear that so many times. But it's cool. He's got a tradition, and he's sticking with it, and obviously it's worked for him. Now, he's going to mulligan here, show off his hand. It actually had 5 supporters in it, and Josh will draw an extra card to start off the game. That's an early 1-card advantage for him. That's great. And Ross is going to shuffle in until he gets basic, draw another fresh hand of 7 cards. On Josh's side, normally he's got some more stuff. Normally he's got, like his Hoppip out there, Normally he's got his really cool sleeves. He does have his Magikarp shirt on, as you can see there. And that poison counter looks like a coughing. That's pretty cool. But I got to say, I'm disappointed, Josh. Usually you got some more flair out there. You need some more pieces of flair for next time. Looks like he was just showing up to play this time. He's not in fanfare mode today. We'll see if that comes back to bite him. Now, Ross does get a basic. He's going to put out whatever Pokemon that is, put out 6 prizes. And here we go. Game number 2. We have a Bouffalant and a Sableye. We'll see how this one goes. I'm not sure if Josh opted to start with the Bouffalant or if he drew that off his mulligan. That was an interesting start if he decided to start with the Bouffalant. He drops a double colorless right away, and Juniper's away. 2 darks, double colorless, energy search, and a Bianca. Pretty strong opening, to be honest. It's going to help him use Dark Patch, power up Darkrai early on, and that'll be a great start for him if he can, get that Dark Patch. You do need Dark Energy in the discard pile to pull that off. Helps you accelerate your Dark Pokemon so you can attack quickly. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to attack for quite some time. Now, Bouffalant is an interesting Pokemon that has kind of changed a little bit with the release of Plasma Storm. In the past, it was a pretty solid attacker. It hits EXs really hard for 120 for just 3 colorless energy. It has that Boofer ability that keeps it alive for a while. But now that Hypnotoxic Laser is out, it took a huge hit. Just being able to play Hypnotoxic Laser and Verbank, that adds 30 additional damage. That really takes away from the survivability of Bouffalant, which has 100 hit points. Before, you could survive all sorts of attacks. It wasn't a problem. But now, with Laser, it really makes it easier to knock out this Bouffalant. And part of the reason it was so strong is that it would survive 1 attack normally. And it could go blow for blow with most EXs. It would trade 1 for 1, but you would knock out an EX and you'd get 2 prizes. That was the difference. Nowadays, it's probably not going to get 2 attacks off. It's probably going to get 1 attack off, and it's going to get knocked out. That's just the reality of the situation now. But early game, this is when Buffalant is the strongest before your opponent can really set up their big attackers. If you can get a turn 2 Goldbreaker and then they can't respond with a knockout, you're ahead 2 prizes, and that is a huge deal. But we'll see what Ross does here, if he can capitalize on this early game, or if he'll just have to pass. If he has to pass, Buffalant could very easily just run through him this game. If, he just gets Goldbreakered every turn for 120, that could be a very, very big deal. But we're going to see Ross is going to play a heavy ball here. Now I know Ross, he gets a lot of criticism for taking his sweet time on his turns. He's going to search his deck here with the heavy ball. It's the first search, so he's going to check to see what his prizes are. In a 75-minute match, this is not as big of a deal. He's probably going to check to see what all 6 of his prizes are, honestly. A lot of people can't stand the fact that he plays so slowly, but for the most part, he does play within the rules, and the judges have been on him ever since, Indiana Regionals, where he actually did get warned a couple times for slow play. And, I don't think we'll see any problems, but don't expect any super speedy turns out of Ross. He's going to think everything out, be very deliberate with his actions, and make sure he doesn't screw up anything. So he's going to grab a Landorus with that heavy ball, put a fighting on it, and we'll see what else he has from here. If he has a switch, I think he would probably switch, but he's actually going to catch out the Sableye instead. So that's going to tip me off and say that he does not have a switch, and he actually doesn't have a supporter at all, and he's just going to pass. That's a pretty brutal turn. And now Josh, this is his turn to capitalize. If he can pull off a Goldbreaker here, that'll be a huge deal. That'll put him on the offensive. That'll give him the early lead for the most part. So we'll see what he does. He's going to Skyla, and I don't know if this will give him the cards he needs to pull off a Goldbreaker this turn, but we'll find out. We'll see what he grabs with this Skyla. He can grab any trainer with this supporter. It's very nice, gives you some flexibility, gives you the ability to search for whatever you want at will. It takes up your supporter for the turn, but a lot of the times it's just worth it, because a lot of the times when you play supporters, you're just searching for one card anyway. So why not just play the Skyla and search for that card straight away instead of relying on, drawing it off the top of your deck, which is unsure. Now we're going to see what he grabs, and it looks like Laser is his target of choice for Skyla. He did that last game, even though it only took one turn. But he did that last game. He's doing it again this game. If he has a Verbank and a way to Goldbreaker this turn, that is actually huge. Buffalant did gain a bit of strength, and there we go. There's the Verbank. It did gain a bit of strength with Laser against EXs, as he does poison that Mewtwo and put it to sleep. Now he can Goldbreaker for 120, and then with a poison and Verbank, the Mewtwo takes 30 in between turns, and then it'll come back into Josh's turn, and the Mewtwo will be knocked out. But no, he's actually got a pass after that. He did not have an energy. We saw he also had to Juniper away his energy search on the first turn, so you got to think if he had that, he would have gone for that. But that catcher definitely bought Ross a turn there. Unfortunate for Josh, but we know Ross does not have a supporter either. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Now, Ross does have a poison Mewtwo. That clock is ticking on the Mewtwo. He does need to make a move. He does need to retreat it or switch it. Otherwise, it's just going to slowly be knocked out from poison. That is just the power of Laser. And Verbank at work. And I don't know. What does Ross have? This is one of those situations where a great player will find a way to make things work. When everything's going your way, it's pretty simple to, attach, X-Ball, or Land's Judgment, blah, 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 all that good stuff. Play your lasers. When the deck is flowing well, that's when most players are okay. But when you're in these situations where you just don't have much to work with, and you have very few resources, this is where the great players separate themselves from the average ones. And we'll see if Ross can make something happen with the cards he has in his hand, because it honestly doesn't seem like he has much. He's going to play a switch, He does need to get out of that poison. He realizes that. And he's going to go into the Landorus. And he's going to play a laser. See if he can get a heads on this. Looks like, yes, he does put the Sableye to sleep. Puts it to sleep. There we go, Josh. And we're going to Hammerhead for 30 and 10 to the Bouffalant. And that's going to take 30 more from Poison. We'll see if the Sableye wakes up. Looks like no. Uh-oh, that could be a big turn of events for Ross. You know, he could just get a free knockout right there. And that could be the difference in this game. Now, if you're Josh, you're going to need to pull something big off this turn. You're going to need to get your Keldeo into play, because most Darkrai decks do not play switch cards. They just play Keldeo EX instead, since you can just rush in, give it a Dark Energy, and get free retreat with it. He's going to Ultra Ball, discard a Verbank and an N, and we can see that Keldeo is in his deck, so he's going to grab that. It's going to allow him to, you know, like I said, use that rush in. It's not retreating, so you can just kind of shove the other Pokemon out of the way with that ability. Keldeo comes from the bench into the active spot. It looks like he's got the nice promo Keldeo there. So it looks like he's been to Walmart lately. But he's going to rush in with that Keldeo. Puts down a Darkrai as well, so that's big. He had both of those cards there. And he's going to attach, and he's going to be able to retreat to the Bouffalant. So he must have an energy switch as well, and he does. And now he'll be able to Gold Breaker for 120 damage and set up that Landorus for a knockout. And this could be huge. This could be the beginning of, you know, a strong start for Josh. We'll see what Ross does here. But no matter what, that is a lot of pressure to put on Ross, who has a Landorus with only 1 energy on it. If that Landorus had 2 energy on it, this would be kind of a weaker play, because he would just be able to attach and use Land's Judgment for the knockout and retain his energy. That would be very scary for Josh. But since it only has 1 on it, and you can only attach 1 per turn, and Garbodor really isn't a deck that plays Ether, you just don't have space for it, they're just limited to 1 attachment per turn. So he cannot get another fighting and another energy on there for Land's Judgment. So he's limited to using Hammerhead, or at best having a switch and using Mewtwo to X-Ball. But that's not nearly as threatening as a fully powered Landorus. So Josh definitely is at the advantage here. He has that Bouffalant fully powered. He's going to be able to take a hit from Landorus. He'll be able to Gold Breaker next turn for a knockout. Take the first 2 prizes here. But Ross will be able to Hammerhead for 40 to the Bouffalant, because of that Boofer ability. It does reduce by 20. Weak to fighting, but it's still minus 20 after the weakness. And he'll be able to knock out the Sableye. So he'll get a prize at least, and we'll see where he goes from there. Now he's going to put a Rescue Scarf on the Landorus as well. That's kind of just working with what you got. He's going to be able to get the Landorus back at the very least, return it to his hand if it gets knocked out. He's going to go for a Hammerhead, knock out the Sableye, take a prize, hopefully get something to work with here, and go from there. Now, taking the prize there, it may not seem like a huge deal, but it gets him an extra card. And when you're in these low-resource situations, every extra card matters. Even just getting one from your prize makes a huge difference. And we will see a Gold Breaker for the knockout there, but it's interesting to note that Josh does not have anything beyond this Bouffalant. He just has this 1 Pokemon powered up, doing 120 damage, but if Ross just has a single double Colorless Energy, he can X-Ball the Bouffalant for a knockout, and all of a sudden, Josh is left with no energy in play, no way to attack, and he's going to be in a ton of trouble. So we do see a fighting on the Landorus and a laser, so this could be a problem as well. Now, it looks like that is a Tails. If Ross has a switch, he can switch and Hammerhead for a knockout and still achieve that same situation. But no, there's no switch. And Ross just is not having things going his way this game, that is for sure. We do have Josh poisoned, though, so he's going to need to, rush in with Keldeo and attach if he wants to get rid of that poison. Otherwise, he's just going to get knocked out. And that is probably not what he wants to do here. We haven't seen Josh play a supporter either. Could be one of those situations where he has an N and he just doesn't want to play it. We did see him discard an N earlier. So I don't really know about that. He's going to rush in with Keldeo here. And let's see, it looks like he has a Dark in hand, so he's going to attach that. Now he has free retreat with that Dark Cloak. And he's going to go back to the bench, remove the poison. Keldeo has become a necessity in these Darkrai decks just because you need to get around Laser. You need to get rid of poison. He's going to energy switch to his Darkrai as well. I'm not sure why he's doing that. I mean, it might be nice just to keep the energy on your Keldeo. Give yourself something to promote. Next turn, you can always save the energy switch. But if you draw like Dark Patch, you would want to promote Keldeo and then Dark Patch to Darkrai and then retreat. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he's just playing that in preparation for an N or something like that. So he just wants to get the energy on the Darkrai as soon as he can. But, here's a switch. And this was a big top deck for Ross. Now he's going to be able to Hammerhead for the knockout. Tie the game up. And now Josh, he's got to draw something here. Probably in the next turn or two. Otherwise, this Landorus is just going to go to town. And what can he do about it? Well, he's going to draw a card here. Man, I just don't know what he can do now. He's going to need a huge combination of cards to pull this off. And this is kind of why you would want to keep the energy on the Keldeo. You want to give yourself a better shot just to, keep it active if you don't have the cards to pull off a Night Spear this turn. And then energy switch that thing off when you're ready to retreat. Now he's in an awkward spot where if he had like a Dark Patch, he really couldn't attack this turn, I don't think. Maybe he could. He would need a second energy switch, though. So, I'm not sure. We'll see what he has. He's going to attach another Dark to his Darkrai. And what else does he have? He must not have much, that's for sure. We do have a Juniper, though. That's a pretty big card to have here. He's going to draw 7 cards here. He decides not to bench his other Darkrai. That's an interesting move. I think here you might want to just bench that other Darkrai to give yourself an option to Dark Patch. Because if you can Dark Patch and then Energy Switch, you could still pull off a Night Spear this turn. And you'll be A-okay. We'll see, though. What does Josh draw off of his 7 cards here? We are in a tie game here. This is do or die for Josh. If he does not win this game, he is eliminated from the tournament in the top 16. If he can win this game, he will advance, to the third game. I don't know why I said advance, but we will play a third and deciding game to see who will advance to the top 8. But he's going to need something here, and all right, here's a computer search. This is a big card to have. Discard 2 cards, search for any card. If he can pull off a Night Spear this turn, not only will he do 90 to the Landorus EX, he will knock out that Mewtwo on the bench with the extra 30 damage from Night Spear. And this would be huge. It would be game over in one more turn. And this is not what Ross wants to see, that is for sure. But that is exactly what Josh needed here. And this is just kind of the fine line between the Darkrai and Landorus matchup. If you can hit the Landorus while it only has 1 energy on it, then they are much weaker. And there is a Darkrai. There's a Dark Patch. Is there an energy switch to go with it? Yes, energy switch up to the active. And all of a sudden, J-Wittz is in control of this match. He's going to hit the active for 90, the Mewtwo for 30. And if you're Ross, this is probably game over. I don't really see a way out of this one now. It's just one more Night Spear, and the game ends. Unless he plays something like Max Potion, that would be the one way for him to come back into this. You never know, with Laser in his deck, he could always do that as well, pull off something. But it just seems like this game is pretty much over. The Landorus only has 90 points left. Although Ross does play Eviolite, so if he puts an Eviolite on there, if he has one, that could be a big thing as well. It would reduce the damage by 20, force Josh to have either a Laser or a Dark Claw to finish off that Landorus. That is something else I didn't think of. So we're going to see an Ultra Ball. He's going to discard Rescue Scarf and Verbank. Now, if you're Ross here, I think you would actually try to go for Garbodor at this point. You would try to get that out by next turn so that you could catch her up Keldeo or Darkrai. He's going to grab another Landorus, though. But when you have Garbotoxin active, you can shut off abilities, and the main one there is Darkrai's Dark Cloak. And all of a sudden, those Keldeo and Darkrai's have 2 retreat instead of the free retreat from Dark Cloak. So if you can catch Josh with no energy and, kind of stick a Pokemon active and just hammerhead until one of them gets knocked out, that's a way to come back in this game. But there's an Eviolite as well. And there's a Bianca for 6. So who knows, guys? This could be a big turn of events for Ross. He is finding a way to make the most of his situation. He finally drew a supporter. Does he have a laser to go with it? If he does, that would be huge. If not, then all it takes is a laser or a Dark Claw from Josh, and the game will end. But, if he doesn't have one of those, I don't know, Ross could actually still win this game. We'll see what he has, though. He's going to take his time and see what he has to work with. He would want to hit the active for 60 because he needs to get rid of the thing that has all the energy on it, that's for sure. And what will Ross do here? If he had a switch, I think he would probably switch and attack with the other Landorus. If he has a switch into fighting, that's what he wants to do. He needs to attack this turn, that's for sure. And where is he going to put the energy? He has a double colorless in his hand. He's kind of working out some math right now, seeing what he can do, what he can't do. And let's see. He's going to put down a Trubbish. I like that move. Like I said before, if he can get Garbodor out there, shut off the Dark Cloak, that is one way for him to steal a win here. That's for sure. And, there's a laser. So he does have one. And it looks like it's a Tails. That's fortunate for Josh. Don't want to lose to Sleep Flip there. That would be pretty ugly. And, all right. So Ross has realized, all right, I just need to go for this. Attach to the active Landorus, and he's going to hammerhead this turn. And really put Josh under a ton of pressure. You need to have laser or a Dark Claw this turn, or else I am going to have this Landorus knocking on your door, and I can make a comeback here, because you don't have enough energy in play to pull anything off. So we'll see. What does Josh have? That Landorus does have 90 hit points left, but it does have the Eviolite reducing by 20. But all right, there's a Dark Claw, Night Spear for the knockout, and Josh will tie this series up 1-1, and we will head in to a third and final game to see which one of these superstars of the game will advance to the top 8 at the Illinois State Championship. Now, if you're both these guys, you're probably thinking, man, out of all the top 16 players, I got paired up with this guy. No offense to the other players, but would you rather face Ross Cawthon or, kind of an average guy from the Illinois area? I think most people would rather take the average guy from the Illinois area. And if you're Ross, you're probably looking at the list of, 16 guys, and you're saying, I didn't want to get paired against this guy. This is one of the guys who, really knows what he's doing. He's won a regional championship before. He's made a top 8 at Worlds. This is one of the tough players that I wanted to get. I didn't want to play until the end of the tournament. So it's unfortunate that one of these guys does have to get eliminated here. But that is the nature of tournaments. That is single elimination for you. That is just the pairings at work. I'm glad that we got to witness this great match between these two great players. But it's unfortunate to see one of them go home early. And we'll see. Will it be J-Wittz or will it be Ross, the 2-time Worlds finalist? I don't know. We got one game left. These 2 games so far have been kind of ugly, to be completely honest. The first one ended in a turn. The second one, Ross didn't play a supporter until his last turn. But he still made it close. That's just what Landorus does versus Darkrai. You can still make it close even when you don't have a whole lot going for you. So will this third game be exciting, or will it be another dud? We'll see. This format can provide some exciting games with N in the format and laser and such, but it can also provide some duds. We do see dead hands quite a bit in this game. It's an unfortunate part of the game, but Hey, it is what it is. Looks like Ross is going to take his time and shuffle one more time. It is 75 minutes here in the top cut for this 2-day state championship. Just want to give a quick shout out to Jimmy Ballard and his store, Top Cut Central, for running this event. He was the only one to make this a 2-day event. Attendance has been growing. Every year it just seems like these state championships are one day. They don't end until midnight or later. Players are tired. They've been playing all day. They show up at like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. They probably had to get up even earlier to drive here. And they spend all day playing. Don't get done until midnight or 1, and then you have to drive all the way home. So instead, he just split it up into 2 days. It's less stress on his staff, less stress on the players, and it makes it more of an actual card game tournament rather than an endurance contest, which is what a lot of tournaments turn into when they're one day. We did have 8 rounds here in a top 16, over 130 players, so it's just kind of a necessity at this point. You know, it's not a popular decision, but props to Jimmy for trying it out. It was definitely a success in terms of player feedback. Personally, I played in the tournament. I was much happier having it split into 2 days. It just felt a lot more relaxed, and it just made everyone more comfortable. So we do see Josh Mulligan here in the third game. He is going to have to shuffle it in. Draw a fresh hand of 7. Ross will start with an extra card here at the beginning. Now this could be a scary start for Josh, honestly, if he starts with a lone Sableye. There is a chance that Ross could go Mewtwo, Double Cutlass, Verbank, Laser, and win on the first turn. That's out there. But Josh will probably survive the turn. He's going to hope to start with something. And, a second mulligan. That's not good. So Ross is going to take a look at the hand, see if there's anything interesting there. And then analyze some cards there, but that was pretty standard stuff. And Ross now starts with 2 extra cards. So I don't know if this is going to... extra cards are always going to help, that's for sure. But we'll see if that makes the difference here in this third and final game. We're going to have to wait and find out. This Josh frantically shuffles and wants to get a basic here. He wants to get going here. It's kind of a nerve-wracking thing when you're playing such a high-pressure game. You know, there's a lot on the line here. I mean, the winner of this tournament gets $300. You get 100 championship points. You get a bye at U.S. Nationals. And, a third mulligan. Oh, that is just terrible for Josh. A third mulligan. 3 extra cards for Ross now. Ugh. And, yeah, I mean, at this point, there's a ton of pressure on the game. There's a ton of prizes on the line if you win this tournament. In addition to the prestige of, just being named the state champion. And you can't even start the game. You're just nervous. You just want to get going. You want to play. You want to win here. And you can't even get set up. This is really annoying when you're the guy who has to keep shuffling and shuffling and shuffling and keep getting no basics. But all right, 4th time's a charm. Here we go. Game number 3. This decides it all, folks. Who will advance to the top 8? Josh Wittenkeller or Ross Cawthon. We have a Mewtwo versus a Trubbish. And you got to think if Josh had gone first here, man, this would be weird. But since Ross lost the second game, he gets to choose who goes first. And, of course, he will choose to go first. Because you don't want stuff like that to happen where your Trubbish gets knocked out by a Mewtwo before you can draw a card. No disadvantage to going first, so better go first. Alright, now the downside for us of Ross having 3 extra cards is that he has more options to work with. So this may be a long turn. We always joke a little bit about how long Ross takes, but sometimes he does push the limit of what's acceptable for how long to take. He does have judges monitor him quite a bit, but for the most part, he is okay. And when you have this many options in your hand, it can become difficult, so we won't be too hard on him. We see a Verbank and a Laser to start. Those are 2 easy cards to play, that's for sure. That's going to start off this game with Mewtwo already hitting 30 damage with Ross really not doing anything. And he's actually going to play another laser. Put the Mewtwo to sleep. This usually indicates that the player has a Juniper and just wants to discard the hand. And, might as well play the laser because you're going to discard your hand anyway. Why not try to put your opponent to sleep? And let's see. He's going to put down a second Trubbish as well. So this is the first time we're going to get to see Garbodor come into play, I think. He's contemplating where to put the tool. He's got one in his hand. Probably, he puts an Eviolite on the bench Trubbish. Now, Trubbish is weak to Psychic, so it'll be knocked out by X-Ball no matter what. It'll do 80 minus 20. And we'll see if he has any other cards to play before he does Juniper here. Looks like he's actually going to attach to the Trubbish. And Josh has to take a closer look at that Trubbish. He does have Garbage Collection. Take a card from your discard pile, put it on top of your deck. It actually discards an N and a Bianca. So interesting that he's favoring to discard all those cards instead of just playing the N there. It's kind of a riskier move here in the third game. Discarding 3 supporters on your first turn where you could just N and get a fresh hand of 6. You're also discarding a switch in the process there. So I'm not sure. I don't know if that's right or wrong here. It's definitely a riskier move. He's trying to get more cards in order to aid his setup a little bit since he just has 2 Trubbishes out. He wants to get more attackers into play. And by more, I mean an attacker in play. So that is probably why he played the Juniper. He realizes the urgency of getting an attacker into play, powering it up right away. Otherwise, he could fall behind early on. Interesting that he did just attach to the Trubbish, though. He didn't just Juniper and, try to draw another Pokemon. We do see a Tornadus EX, which is not commonly seen in these Garbodor decks. An interesting addition. Makes sense now that the Verbank is in here, though. We'll see if that comes into play at all. But interesting that he did attach to the Trubbish before playing the Juniper instead of, trying to draw into an attacker and then attaching energy to the attacker. He kind of took away his option to be aggressive this turn, but he probably figures, you know what, I got a laser off. I can just Garbage Collection. I am okay with this first turn. So we're going to see what card will he Garbage Collection for. He can grab any card from his discard pile, put it on top of his deck, and he goes for the laser. And you can see Josh just shaking his head like, I didn't even know that existed. But yeah, he's going to Garbage Collection for a laser. Now that tells us that Ross definitely has a supporter in his hand, otherwise he would have gotten that. So we know that Ross has at least a supporter in hand. So if Josh had a decision on whether or not to play an N, he should definitely play N here instead of like a Juniper, I think. We'll see what he decides to do, though. I'm not really sure what he wants to do with this, or what he even has. He has a Skyla, so that could be dangerous. We could see him lose before he gets another turn. We don't want to see him get another one-turn game, do we? That would be a pretty anticlimactic ending to this series. We'll see what he takes with the Skyla, though. There are a lot of things he could take here. He could take any one of those trainers. I don't really know what the best option is for him here. I don't even know if he wants to attack with X-Ball here. If he does, sure, he knocks out a Trubbish, but at what cost? It's going to open up the door for Ross to X-Ball him back for the game if he doesn't get another Pokemon out. But yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, you would not want this Mewtwo to be active still. You would want to retreat it, or at least rush in, get rid of that poison. The problem is Garbodor is coming. And you cannot really bench too many Pokemon when Garbotoxin is in effect, because if you just bench a Darkrai with no energy, guess what? It gets catchered up. And then it's stuck there because you can't free retreat. You can't Dark Patch to it because it's in the active spot. And you're basically giving up 2 prizes, especially when you got Laser in the game. Now, he grabs a Max Potion with the Skyla. interesting move. It really prevents him from being any sort of aggressive anytime soon. He's going to catch her up the other Trubbish, it looks like. Benches a second Mewtwo. So much for Darkrai. It's all Mewtwo right here. He's going to play a laser on the Trubbish. I guess might as well get some damage on it. That'll allow him to catch her it later and X-Ball it with just 2 energy for a knockout. Could be big. And he's just going to pass. He smartly saves the Max Potion. He knows the only way that he gets, knocked out this turn is a Mewtwo switch, double colorless. But, it did happen in the first game, didn't it? So if Ross has that, then Josh could be in some major trouble. But like I said, odds are not too high, especially because we know Ross's top card was a laser there. I got to think that went into Josh's decision on what to Skyla for. Since he knows Ross gets a laser no matter what, then you don't really want to retreat your Mewtwo, because then the next Pokemon just gets poisoned. And so he grabs the Max Potion instead. The unfortunate part is that he wasn't able to get an energy attachment off that turn. Kind of a brutal start, to be honest. You have to play so defensively because of that laser. And it looks like Ross is playing another laser here. He's going to get heads and put the Mewtwo to sleep. And this again signifies that he has a Juniper or a Bianca. And he's just playing it out because he has to. And we'll see where he goes from here. He may not have many options at all. And that could be huge for Josh, who kind of just doesn't have anything going for him right now. Kind of a sad game here. Hopefully this gets a little more exciting. It picks up, but right now, Ross is definitely the one at the advantage with the laser. Doesn't look like Josh has very much. I don't know. Neither player really has much, but at least Ross can garbage collect and get back anything he wants every turn. He can get back a supporter if he wants. He can get back another laser if he wants. It's kind of like a very, very bad version of Junk Hunt, but it's better than passing, I guess. And it is good at times to just get some stuff back. And I don't know. We'll have to see how Ross wants to go about this. He's going to put a Giant Cape on the Tornadus. Don't see Giant Cape too often. Interesting that he plays a combination of Eviolite and Giant Cape. And I believe he plays Rescue Scarf as well. What is he going to do here? This is a tough decision, so he's probably going to take his time, think out his options. He'll think about where he wants to put his energy here. He does have one in hand. He can play it. He's actually going to put it on the active Trubbish. He wants to make sure he can get that out of the active spot. He doesn't want to rely on drawing a switch, I suppose. But again, it's going to prevent him from being aggressive. It's going to prevent him from really doing anything here. He's going to Heavy Ball. And probably get a Garbodor here. I guess. Or he could just grab a Landorus. I'm not sure what he wants to go for. Garbodor would make sense. Retreat the active Trubbish. Evolve it to Garbodor since it already has a tool on it. And the shut-off abilities. Now, there are no abilities in Josh's field so far, but he does play Darkrai. Ross is very well aware of that. So maybe he just wants to preemptively shut off Dark Cloak, shut off, rush in, so that the poison is just kind of stuck there, and that Mewtwo is just going to die from poison. That's just a reality of the situation. So he's got, honestly, 2 options here, Garbodor or Landorus. We'll see which one he decides to go with. And it looks like he's going for Landorus. You don't always need to put down Garbodor if you don't want to. One of the fears in this matchup is an infinite catcher lock on your Garbodor. And what do I mean by that? It means, Garbodor has a 3 retreat cost. It's a big, fat pile of garbage that doesn't really like to move very quickly. So, what your opponent can do if you put Garbodor into play is just catcher it out, and then use Sableye to Junk Hunt and get back 2 catchers. And then when you play a switch, they just catcher it back out. And then when you play a switch, they just catcher it back out. And eventually, you run out of switches, and you're like, oh, I'm stuck. And what can happen is you can actually just deck out while your Garbodor is stuck active. Or your opponent can just set up enough stuff to eventually overpower you and win. So that's something you always have to watch out for. That's an option that Josh will always have here. The way to counteract this with Garbodor is to take enough prizes before you enter this phase of the game to have that not matter. You know, if you've already taken 4 prizes and you still have 2 switches left, well, you're just going to win because you're going to take your prizes. So we'll see if that comes up, but that is always a scary thing to look out for if you are playing this Garbodor deck. Now, again, Ross is going to retreat since that active Trubbish was poisoned. He didn't want that to get knocked out by poison and laser. He's going to retreat to his Trubbish and use Garbage Collection, put a card back on top of his deck. And we'll see what he decides to get. Again, this is a turn of not really attacking. Feels like this game has gone on a while, but this is actually only the second turn. Oh boy. We got a long ways to go here, folks. In the third game, we'll see what Ross wants to get back with Garbage Collection this time. He does have that Rescue Scarf, Trubbish active, and the Eviolite on the other one. And he gets back a switch. That's, he realizes that's probably the most important card to get back. And, oh, Josh stays asleep on the laser. That means that Mewtwo is going to go down for sure. But he does have the Max Potion. He can do that. Heal off the 90, buy himself a turn. That's actually a huge turn of events, though. If Josh were able to wake up there and just attach a double colorless and X-Ball the Trubbish for a knockout, he could have been in decent shape. You know, he could have been fine. Especially after this end, he would have left Ross with no energy in play. He would have shuffled the deck so that Ross does not draw the switch. And he would have taken the 1 prize lead, made it very difficult for Ross to respond. Perhaps, you know, taking out another Trubbish next turn and take prizes in the process of getting rid of your opponent's Garbodor. But all of that is prevented due to the sleep flip on Hypnotoxic Laser and the fact that Josh stayed asleep. So welcome to the game. That is Pokemon at the moment. We have lasers deciding all sorts of matches, and once again here, definitely making an impact. And we'll see what Josh has here. What he decides to do this turn. I see a water Pokemon in his hand, so he could rush in and get rid of the poison. The problem is, if he does that and then Ross just drops Garbodor and plays another laser, then the Keldeo is stuck active. So that's kind of a bummer. But he is going to do it looks like. He's going to rush in, get rid of the poison, get rid of that big coughing counter. And we'll see if he gets an energy. This is a big thing here. He needs to get energy into play in order to keep up with Ross at this point. If he doesn't get any energy in play, well, obviously, then you can't attack. But if you don't get it before Ross builds like 2 energy on his Landorus, there is almost no way to deal with that as the Darkrai player. It's not a pretty thing to see. So we see a Dark on the Keldeo. We'll see if he retreats now that Darkrai's in play. Looks like, yep, he's going to retreat to Mewtwo and pass. So once again, no aggression from Josh either. A very slow-paced game. Josh has healed off all the damage on his field because of that Max Potion. That was a big move there. But will Ross respond now with some aggression? Will we finally see an actual attack this game? I don't know. Now, something important to note is that even though, yes, Josh did need to kind of rush in and get rid of the poison on his Mewtwo, he did open himself up to Garbodor now. And that means if Ross has the Garbodor this turn, looks like he's not doing it, but if Ross does get a Garbodor out and catcher up that Darkrai, then, I mean, it's stuck there. It's got a 2 retreat cost. Dark Cloak is deactivated thanks to Garbotoxin, and it is just stuck. Like, he can't move it, and he can just sit there and hammerhead it until it gets knocked out and spread 30 to the bench. That's devastating for the Darkrai player. 2 prizes gone. It allows Ross to build up energy, and it builds up bench damage on on Josh's bench. That is just such a devastating thing to have happen to you. But it looks like that's not what Ross is doing. He's just poisoning the active Mewtwo. And we'll see what he does here. His 2 options are to use Tornadus to blow through. He puts down a Mewtwo as well. I guess he can X-Ball. That's the riskier play. Or he could put a Fighting on Landorus and just hammerhead for 30 and start setting up some damage. Now, I don't know if he has Garbodor in hand here, but if he does, this is the time where you probably want to play it. Josh is stuck with a 2 energy retreater in the active spot. You don't really have to worry about the infinite catcher lock because Josh has already played 1 or 2 catchers. And also, when Ross does discard 2 double colors there, that could be big. But, yeah, there's no way Sableye is coming active anytime soon for Josh with all those 2 retreating Pokemon out there. And Josh is going to take a look. We see 2 DCEs in the discard pile. That is actually pretty big. You know, it's going to make it tougher for Ross to attack with Mewtwo and Tornadus. We'll see if that comes back to bite him later. But at the rate things are going, it probably won't. Josh has not done anything. He's only played 1 energy so far. And now the Trubbish is going to go to the bench. We're going to have Landorus come up. We'll see if Ross has Garbodor. And indeed he does. Garbotoxin is in effect. And this is the one spot in this matchup where it's going to make a huge difference. There's just not enough energy on Josh's field to really do anything right now. He cannot use Russian with Keldeo. He cannot use Dark Cloak with Darkrai. The Mewtwo is stuck up there. It's got a 2 retreat cost. Darkrai decks really don't play Switch because, you know, why would you when you have Russian? And they don't really play Tool Scrapper anymore because why would you? Who plays Garbodor? And, again, he stays asleep. This is not Josh's day for those sleep flips. Man, that is brutal. His Mewtwo, it just keeps staying asleep. That is one lazy Mewtwo, that's for sure. And now, what does Josh do from here? He's just stuck. I don't really know. What is he supposed to do here? He can not do anything. That's it. Unless he has a Switch or a Tool Scrapper. I don't think he plays either one of those, but if he had one, he could switch out of the poison and maybe pull an attack off this turn. If he had a Tool Scrapper, he would actually be in excellent position. You know, discard the Rescue Scarf and the Eviolite from the Garbodor and the Trubbish. But it looks like he has nothing, and he has to pass. He finally wakes up at least. But the way that the poison damage actually works out is in Ross's favor big time. What's going to happen is you see that Mewtwo is at 90 damage right now. So what's going to happen is Ross can Hammerhead for 30, and then the poison will add another 30, thanks to Verbank, which will put the Mewtwo up to 150 damage, and the Mewtwo is stuck up there. Like I said, no Russian, no Dark Cloak, and, then going back into Ross's turn, Josh takes another 30 from poison, and he gets knocked out, loses 2 prizes, and he has to promote a new Pokemon for Ross to hit. So this was excellent planning by Ross, realizing what the poison damage would be like with Hammerhead. He did have the option to use Tornadus or Mewtwo, and he opted to go with Hammerhead instead, knowing that this would happen. So this is why Ross is one of the smartest players in the game, why he's been so successful over the course of his career. He's actually qualified for every single World Championship to date, going back to 2002. Josh is going to try to rush in, and Ross says, nope, Garbodor. And Josh is like, oh, yeah, I knew there was a reason I couldn't move that thing. And now he has to pass, and down goes Mewtwo. Up comes Sableye, and Ross takes 2 prizes without even doing much of anything. And that is the power of Laser, and the power of Verbank, in combination. And from here, you got to think that Ross is absolutely in a dominant position. He has a Landorus with 2 energy on it. He's up 2 prizes. If he has a catcher here, this game is probably just over. He can catcher up Darkrai, attach Land's Judgment for 160 damage for the weakness, take 2 more prizes, and he can honestly take 4 prizes in like a turn thanks to Laser. That is brutal if you're Josh. We'll see what Ross has here. You got to think if he has the catcher, he's certainly going to play it here. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. And just like that, I mean, just little damage can add up. Poison adds up so quickly nowadays. And with Garbodor shutting off that Dark Cloak, shutting off that Russian, taking away Josh's ability to get out of the poison. Looks like Ross is trying to take back that double colorless, but Josh is saying, nope, it's already down. And maybe Ross had that catcher play and didn't see it. But instead, I mean, a Hammerhead's not bad either. Doing 30 and 30, that's probably good enough. He also has a catcher. He could just play it in Hammerhead, the Darkrai, for 60 if he has a laser. And then 30 to bench Pokemon. He could just pull it off that way. I definitely think that was a bit of a misstep, attaching the double colorless to the Mewtwo instead of the Landorus. He had the catcher in hand and also a Skyla, so he could do back-to-back catchers, knock out the Darkrai, then knock out the Mewtwo with 30 on it, and just win the game in 2 turns. Now it's going to set him back a turn, but I guess this is the more conservative route. Less likely to walk into N, if that were possible for Josh, to N Ross and then maybe make a comeback somehow. At least now there's an energy sitting on the Mewtwo. We do see that catcher on to Darkrai. And we're probably going to see a Hammerhead for 60. If there's a laser, that's a big deal as well. That'll put an extra 30 on the Darkrai and make sure it gets knocked out next turn by laser damage at the very least. So yeah, Ross is just in an incredible position at this point. He's going to do 60 and 30 to the Keldeo. And what does Josh do here? He just does not have anything going for him. This is really, really bad. There's a Landorus with a ton of energy on it already. He's just got an energy switch to a Sableye and pass. This is where you still wish you had Crushing Hammer instead of Laser. Maybe you could come back that way, but even if you had those, you got to think that's just not going to happen at this point. And if Ross has a laser, he could just take 2 prizes here. Looks like he's going to Skyla for it. I would imagine that's what he goes for. And yeah, with the 60 from Hammerhead, the 30 from Laser, that will be a knockout on the Darkrai. And then it's just one more energy attachment. Land's Judgment on another EX for the game. And that's it. That's Ross moving on. I don't know what Josh can do here. He is just locked down by Garbodor. And he has a pretty bad hand as well. You got to say that. He just has not really drawn much of anything this game. And all of this is just combining to, it looks like maybe a 6-0 victory for Ross. A very dominant last game here. He's going to Skyla for a computer search. This is actually a very smart and subtle move here. A lot of people would probably just Skyla straight away for the laser. But Ross realizes that N is a possibility. So he's going to Skyla for the computer search. Discard 2 extra cards if he has any, which I'm sure he does in that giant hand of his. So he's going to get rid of 2 cards that he doesn't want to draw into anymore. A Trubbish and a Garbodor. Makes sense. And then he's just going to take the laser. And laser the active Darkrai. Very smart play there. A lot of people complain about drawing poorly off of opponents ending them down to low number of cards, but the great players will take precautions against that. Discard extra cards whenever it's possible. And that is exactly what you're seeing right there, if you're wondering why he decided to do that. So there is another energy. Or he could have just gone for another energy, I guess. And then I look stupid because, well, he didn't grab a laser at all. He just went for the fighting energy. But the concept remains the same. You just grab computer search so that you can discard 2 excess cards and also get the cards you want. Smart play, no matter what. Even if I am stupid, it's okay. Now J-Wittz promotes the Sableye. And, what do you do here? He realizes the desperate situation he's in and goes for the Confuse Ray. And it looks like, okay, heads. He may have bought himself a turn. Maybe this is what he needed to somewhat maybe give himself a chance. But there's a switch from Ross. He is retreating into the Landorus, and he is playing quickly, so we know this one is all over. Catcher up an EX, and he's going to Land's Judgment for 150 damage, discarding all the fighting to win the game. And that's going to be a 6-0 victory from Josh. And you can see how poor his hand was. He had 3 energy switches, a Dark Patch, and a Verbank. Horrible hand for Josh, but what can you do? Sometimes you just draw poorly, and that is just what happened there. Sad to see him get knocked out so early, but Ross is a world-class player, and he will move on to the top 8. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back with the top 8 soon. I'm Pooka here from the Top Cut, and I'll see you next for the top 8.